In this video, we're talking about shortened muscles and fascia. Does this problem exist? And if it does, is it dangerous? And can it be solved? All this will be explained shortly. Some people who've already come across this term may feel a bit insecure because they hear this and that and the other thing. Well, we'll be clearing up any misunderstandings today so you'll know what we're talking about, how it affects you, and how you can get rid of the problem. And the most important aspect, you will know what to do to prevent any problems caused by wear and tear, any pain, or mobility restrictions. First point of order. Do shortened muscles and fascia really exist? I'm very pragmatic by nature, so just ask someone you know to lie on their belly, preferably someone north of 30, and ask him to touch his butt with his heels. Only few people can do that. Their heel will stop somewhere. Let me show you. Somewhere on the way to their butt, mostly here in an angle of 90 degrees, they'll notice, oh, I can't move anymore. Now, you can argue about why that is. I say there is something too short in the front. That's why. That no one takes an axe to their muscles or fascia or sinews to cut them off goes without saying. All these statements like, it is scientifically proven that muscles simply cannot shorten. Come on, let's not split hairs. It is about why your heel can't reach your butt anymore. This is one of the reasons your knee is worn out. And we call that muscle shortening. So we know what we're talking about. The muscle is under too much tension and therefore does not yield. The fascia is matted and won't yield. Maybe the capsule plays a part in this too. It doesn't matter. We just call that shortened because you simply cannot move your heel all the way up to the butt. When you've done this test with people trying to move their heel to their butt, you'll notice that with some people the stop is rather abrupt, where the flexibility diminishes more and more until nothing moves anymore. With others, again, this transition is smoother as they lose flexibility and reach their end point. It depends on how much your muscles and fascia are trained. But the main thing is they become shorter and shorter. And now the crucial question, why does this shortening happen in the first place? Why do the tensions increase and why does your flexibility go down? Look, our body has many joints, more than 100. And each joint has a given range of motion. Let's take our hip joint as an example. But what we're about to show applies to all joints in your body. The hip joint runs rather well in this ball and socket design, but there are also ligaments that restrict certain movements. But other movements you should be able to do. And if I show you this, many people will go, but I can't do that. Now the big question, why? Once upon a time, you could. When you were born, just a baby, you were so pliable you could put your toes into your mouth and other cute things. So the moment you use your joints in the ranges and at the angles intended biologically or genetically, you can keep this flexibility your entire life. Maybe not as extreme as a baby in his stroller, but you can at least hold on to the situation you have as an adult, where our flexibility normally decreases rapidly. You can at least retain that level of flexibility if you use these angles. You know the law, use it or lose it. This applies to body strength, stability, to everything. Also the flexibility. Use all the angles or lose them. And now the magic word comes up in quotation marks, muscle shortening. Because if you stop doing this for a long time, then the entire structure that is involved in this motion gets used to this inactivity. And this, again, manifests itself in your muscles and fascia, which will adapt to the situation and the capsules as well. And so your body learns, I don't need this angle anymore. Maybe only that angle. And then moving up here becomes difficult. And this is true for every joint. Your elbow joint, fully bent or fully extended. If you do this occasionally and all your life, let's say every other day, you will never lose this flexibility. Freeze your elbow in a certain position for 1, 2, or 3 days, maybe a week. People who once had to wear a cast know about this, how every movement was a bother after it came off. It's the same here and only differs in intensity, and that means every joint in your body adapts to these inactive angles of motion. And now things become difficult because our biology is designed in such a way that the angles provided in this structure should be used. Anything else just wouldn't make any sense. Or do you seriously think that evolution or God, have your pick, both are infallible, would have allowed angles that were not meant to be used? It wouldn't make any sense. The angles provided in your anatomy should also be used. Because if you don't use them, shortening sets in, and in addition to that, the load on your joints increases. Why? The moment a motion is supposed to be carried out and the thing that initiates this motion becomes shorter, something in the back, where it sits, has to give way, but it can't, and so more load bears down on your joint. Every joint needs a certain amount of load because it has to be guided. The yielding muscle always has to counteract a little bit. That's the physiological result of its anatomical design. But if the load increases on the fascia, if it can't be controlled from your brain, you'll experience wear and tear here. It's like a handbrake being pulled. That's a great way to visualize this process. Imagine you have a 100 horsepower engine and you pull the handbrake. Part of your 100 horsepower will get jammed into your joint, onto the wheel, so to speak, and your brake pads will start burning up. To exaggerate this metaphor a bit, the jammed up energy there, because the muscle here is not flexible enough to yield, causes wear and tear. And this will get worse the less willing your muscles are to yield. The more inflexible the muscle becomes, the more dire the situation will be. And to understand this, these processes that happen in your body, most people don't know about them, is immensely important, and you should share this knowledge with all the others. Share this video and help us in educating people because they need to have this understanding of what is happening in their bodies. And as if that was not enough, all these processes happening in your body, unbeknownst to you, there is something else that is at least equally as bad, maybe even more. You have to know that the cartilage in your joints, which lines the contact surfaces of your joints, that this cartilage has to be nourished, the same as all the other tissue in your body. The cartilage is not supplied with blood, only a little in its core. And that's why cartilage on its surface is white, not red, a clear sign. It is nourished by being squeezed like a sponge so that all waste material can be transported off, and when the pressure comes off, by soaking up intercellular liquid containing all the proteins. This is how cartilage gets nourished, and that means it has to be frequently squeezed and then released. That happens automatically when you move. But now, picture this. Your hip joint, which in most people who live a modern lifestyle only moves a little bit back and forth when they walk, rarely to the outside or the inside, and soccer players maybe. And then there's only a little motion, which leads to the cartilage on the contact surfaces not being squeezed enough. Normally, you have the head of the bone going into the socket, moving from here all the way to there so that everything is squeezed and released. But then, when there's only a little movement and these surfaces at the outer edges are not squeezed enough anymore, It's hunger time for your cartilage. But in the center, where the bone does make contact, there is wear and tear due to too much pressure. But as I explained earlier, on the edges where there is no contact, your cartilage is starving to death. And that means your cartilage has no chance if you do not use all the angles our joints allow us. And if you've been able to follow along with all of this so far, then you'll know why athrosis is not a question of age or too much weight or genetic disposition. No. Arthrosis, this wear and tear, is the result of not using the full range of motion, all the angles, which leads to the involved structure being shortened. To sum it up briefly, not using all the angles leads to a shortening, in quotation marks, of the structures around the joint, and that increases the pressure on the contact surfaces of the angles still used. The second effect, certain regions of your cartilage are not nourished anymore because they are not squeezed and then released any longer. And on top of that, you also have the pain issue. From other videos, you might already know that you have to separate the pain issue from arthrosis or any other damages sustained. The pain exists simultaneously, of course. Even before any big damage, it existed before because pain wants to prevent damage. And the pain, in the final analysis, 97% of the pain that people suffer nowadays, these are our numbers, is caused by these shortened muscles as a result of all these joint angles not being used. I hope that if you have followed me so far, you will understand why I again ask you to please share this video with others so everybody wises up about what is happening in their bodies. And now, let's talk about what you have to do to use all these angles. And that is our specialty. This is exactly what our pain therapy is all about, to regain the use of all these angles, to lengthen the structures that have been shortened. Here you can practice what is best for you to lengthen these shortened structures, to get results within a short period of time and correct all these misalignments. Clicking here takes you directly to our premium channel. Clicking down here takes you to other educational videos to show you how your body works. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, to my videos, do it now. And in the future, you'll get all the interesting information directly. Bye.